Week 6, image of God. We're just going to have a little discussion. I'm going to go through all these slides anyway. We're going to talk about abortion today. Do you guys know what abortion is? Do you know what abortion is? Okay, so everybody can know what the word is. First of all, if you remember, we talked about objective versus subjective. You guys remember the difference? When we think of something that has, say something is truth, if it's objective, it's true for everybody, right? And if it's subjective, it might be just true for you, like cookies are good, right? That's subjective. So today we're asking this question: what determines the value or worth of a person? Think about if somebody is objectively valuable or subjectively valuable. That's kind of what we're thinking. This is my daughter when she was 4, and she made my magic sword. See, I have it here. It's got her little buttons. Her hand doesn't fit in it anymore. But to me, that's valuable. To you guys, it's probably just clunk, right? But to me, it holds value. So that, so that's the concept of what subjective, that's kind of what subjective value is. Something that's valuable for you, but it might not be valuable for everyone else. Think in contrast to like a pile of gold coins. Hi. So when we talk about the value of a person, right? There's some different sources that people in society use. They'll say that, where does your value come from? And they'll say, well, each person decides their own value. Some people will say society decides our value. Some people will say it's God. Self-given value means that the value of a person is based on how they view themselves, right? That's subjective, whimsical, based on feelings. And we live in a society that teaches this. Our society teaches that your value as a person is determined by what you think of yourself. It's determined maybe by what society says. Okay, so this little graphic shows society, says we decided you're valuable. Who? Oh, we did. And then I also say we decided we're valuable, right? That's subjective value. The value of a person is based on what other people think. Therefore, it's subjective. This is where our worldview kicks in, right? We don't believe in this, okay? Because without God, we have no objective value. So in your books now, you need a book. And got one right here. On page 5, we're going to have our first answer. Right? We are created in the image of God.
Did you end up with an extra link?
Yeah, you have it in the box. We are made in the image of God. So we have value. That's not just based on what you think, it's objective value. Okay? Only with God can people have objective value. I would challenge anyone who doesn't believe in God to tell me, how could you make the claim that you have objective value if you don't even believe in an objective source for that value, right? And so here are some principles that God created us in His image, and you may ask, what does the image of God mean? It makes us different than the animals. It makes us different and apart from everything else in creation, being in God's image. We have access to reason and thinking. Remember, we talked about logic. Logic is a property of God. In the beginning was the logos, logic, the reason. We can have access to that. That's being in the image of God. We also have morality. We understand moral law, right? Animals don't. We do. These are things we're creative. We can create things. We're very creative beings. These are things being in the image of God, and we have value. Okay? The image of God is objective, cannot be erased, right? Sin kind of taints it. The image of God is special from all else in creation. It applies to all people, and this is important. It's immaterial. What do you guys think immaterial means? This is material. Me, your body's material.
Is intangible what you're getting at?
It's not part of the universe. It's immaterial, spiritual. It's not material. Material is stuff. Material is atoms. protons, neutrons, right? The image of God is not something that is measured with a ruler or seen in a microscope. But we're spiritual beings, okay? This is not what our society teaches, all right? Last year was this big movie called Barbie.
I've never seen it.
Okay, good. And it's full of ideas that your worth as a person comes from your own self.
Oh.
And there's a theme in the movie that goes so far to say not even to be thankful. And so I'm going to play this little clip about self-empowerment, and you can see kind of how the world's value system comes in.
Just a warning about the Barbie movie. In the beginning, when they're all accepting their awards, they don't say thank you. They say, I worked really hard for this and I deserve it. And it will truly make you feel like you could walk through a wall.
Yeah. So in the movie Barbie, they're giving out these awards, right? And a Barbie goes up to get her award. And normally when people get awards, they say, I want to thank God, maybe, I want to thank my mother, I want to thank my best friends, or whatever. You thank people. And in the movie, she just says, I deserve it. I earned this. I worked hard for this, and thank nobody. And so it kind of made this viral thing. And when I first heard Barbie say, I worked hard for this and I deserve it, I was a little taken back and offended. She said, why didn't they say thank you? It hit me. Wait a minute, we don't have to say thank you, right? I do work hard for this and I do deserve it, right? I caught myself experiencing my own internalized disempowerment and misogyny. Misogyny is being anti-woman. So this is a woman saying this. She had internalized anti-woman, whatever. If I'm committed to being part of the solution, I need to make sure I'm identifying where my own processes could use some empowerment. So this is the self-empowerment culture that's going on today. You deserve it, so they believe that people are valuable, but where is the source? Their value is not sourced in God, right? And I want to bust this myth that's so often taught in the church sometimes. I'm going to bust this on its head. This is not true. Because if we as Christians have this belief, we're no different than the world. Because this is how society sees people, as being worthless, except for what you think. This is not the Christian worldview. Okay, so there's my buzzer. Okay, so I want to set up this analogy for you. Imagine a canvas like this amongst an infinite sea of canvases, and it's blank. Now, when you look at this, you would say, this canvas right here is not special. There's nothing unique about it. It doesn't have much value compared to anything else. It's bland, it's ordinary. There's nothing extraordinary about the canvas. But imagine a painter stepping up, a master painter, and painting a masterpiece on their canvas. Does it change the value of the canvas? Yes. Does the canvas say, I earned this, I deserve it, right? I want you to think in terms of people as being the canvases, and the image of God being the work that God put his image onto us. And so that is a very powerful metaphor, I believe, to show you that we have value. We're not worthless, okay? But we have no value apart from God. Does a canvas earn it? Does a canvas deserve it? No. This is the Christian worldview. We don't deserve what we have. We don't deserve anything. But that doesn't change the fact that we are. Okay? It's certainly true that the canvas is beautiful and special. Every person is a masterwork of God's creation. So that's in the book. Imagine, this is one of the most famous paintings in the world. Leonardo da Vinci made this. It's called the Mona Lisa. You guys recognize this painting? Who would reference the Mona Lisa without referencing da Vinci? It would be really weird to reference this painting and make no mention of the painter, because this canvas is very valuable, right? But it's worthless apart from the master. Guys, kind of getting me, kind of where I'm going with this analogy? Our canvases are beautiful because of our master. So this whole idea of this self-love that divorces the creator, is terrible. It's not Christian. It's not Christian at all. Okay? This is one of my favorite movies. This is called The Woman in Gold. There's a movie made by this, about this story. This is an amazing story. I advise anyone to see it. Our pastor loves this movie, by the way. It's called The Woman in Gold. This was painted around 1903 to an Austrian family, Jewish family. And this is a painting of a husband had commissioned a painter to paint this, Gustav Klimt, of his wife. It was a gift for his wife. And during World War II, when the Nazis persecuted Jews, okay, this Jewish family had to flee. And the Nazis, like they did with so many other works of art, they stole this painting and became property of the Nazis. Well, after the war, we found all the loot that the Nazis took. This was one of the paintings discovered. Austria, the government, took this painting, and it became a national treasure for Austria. Put it in a museum. It was considered a national treasure for the government of Austria. Well, one of the nieces of the original Annie Bloch-Bauer in the United States said, hey, that's ours. That belongs in the family. She tried to get it from Austria. There's like, no way you're touching this. This is a masterpiece. She went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they took the case. The U.S. Supreme Court took the case on behalf of a U.S. citizen filing for a painting in Austria of a foreign government. And they ruled that Austria had to give up the painting, and Austria didn't want to give it up. Anyway, it's a big to-do. It's an amazing story. Finally, Austria gave up the painting. They gave it back to this lady, this niece, and then she sold it for $153 million. It's now on display in New York.
That's ridiculous.
But the analogy is powerful because it reminds me of how Satan is called the father of lies, right? And a thief. And when people have Satan as their master, let me ask you, does that mean Satan is their owner? Does Satan own people? When we're slaves to sin, is Satan the owner? No.
No, he has possession.
He has possession, stolen goods. Okay, I want you to think like the Nazis stole this thing. Okay, they're stolen goods from our true owner, which is God. God owns all. God owns everything. God is a true owner. And so we can look at sinners as stolen goods, stolen property with a mark of the King of Kings. It's like a stamp, right? You see like if you saw a presidential seal on an envelope, you say, wow, there's something important in there. It's got the seal of the president. We have the seal of the King of Kings made in the image of God on every human being on planet Earth. Okay? Made in God's image. Sinner or not. Okay? God created his image. We are his masterpiece. But when sin came in the world, now we're going to talk about sin. This is what happened to the canvas. Okay, this is the way the canvases look with sin. This is the state of the unbeliever. You may say, well, that's the equivalent of worthless. You might think that, right? Because I would ask you, who would buy this? If this was the woman in gold, if this was the painting, would it be worth $153 million? Would someone pay that kind of money for a painting that was tarred up with tar and was marred and soiled and blurred? Okay? What would we say to someone who paid $135 million for this? We would surely say that person got ripped off. You got ripped off. No one wants to pay more for something than it's worth. Even worse, consider the notion of buying something stolen from you. Think about that. Someone steals your property, distorts it, destroys it, and then you buy it back. Since it was yours to begin with, what are you even doing buying it? Right? We have better ways to spend our money than getting ripped off. Buying back ruined items that are already ours, that's like getting ripped off twice. You got stolen from twice when you do that. Okay? But I want you to consider that God paid for those payments. Consider that. And then ask yourself, did God pay more than $153 million for those payments? Think about it. God didn't come for the righteous. Jesus says that explicitly. I came for the sick. I came for the lost. Seek and save the lost. He came for these. Well, there were no pristine paintings on earth when Jesus came. They did not exist. Every single canvas was like this. And God paid an immense price for them. Is that garbage? Would you call these garbage? Would you say, God, what are you doing buying that garbage for? See what I'm saying when we call sinners, we equate them with trash? Do you see where I'm going with this? You're basically saying, that's garbage. God, what are you doing? You got ripped off. You're telling God he got ripped off. If you think of a sinner as garbage, then you're basically looking at God saying, you did the wrong thing. You got ripped off. You paid an infinite price for these. Right? The price God paid for sinners is infinite in worth. Maybe it's not infinite. I don't know. I can't put a value on it. Right? Whatever price it truly was, it's uncountable. We can't compute the price God paid. Our Lord died for these paintings. Okay? So people have immense worth as unbelievers. Yes, they're depraved. Yes, they're fallen, but we never equate depravity with worthless. Those words do not go together. Okay? This is a depraved painting. It's not a worthless one. It might be worthless to us, but to God, it's not worthless. These are all the things we are in Christ. And I find this very encouraging to look at this. Value, citizen of heaven, one in Christ. I just put a big list of things that we are, being in Christ. And that in Christ, our paintings are restored. Pretty awesome. That's the power of the gospel. So we got good news. For this world that has no objective value for people, we have a worldview that is radically different from what people say, right? There's no other worldview on earth, and I've looked at the other religions, that put so much value on people as a Christian worldview. It's not in Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam. Okay, this is it. The Christian worldview puts more value on people than any worldview out there. So all people have value. So I had this exercise kit in the box, all right? So it's just us. So we'll just walk this through before I get into abortion, because I think abortion ties into this very much, this idea of people having value. So it's a thought experiment, okay? This is page 41. It's not the class exercise in there. Where's it, 31? What page is it? 20, sorry. Okay. You're about to crush a closed box with massive weight, all right? Just as you hoist the weight, someone yells, wait, there might be a kitten in that box, okay? What? A kitten, you reply, this box was pulled from storage. I thought they were all empty. Yes, but there are some kittens asleep in those boxes at night. Here it says, look, I have proof. And then the bystander showed you a photo of a kitten from last night in one of the boxes. You little kitten. All right. Well, yes, that's one of our boxes, but it's not the same box, you say. Besides, even if a kitten likes sleeping in this box, well, that photo was from last night. It doesn't mean there's anything in this box right now. If you ask me, I think it's empty. And you haven't checked it, right? No, seriously, the bystander says, I really think a kitten crawled in there while you were at lunch, and it's still in there right now. Having heard it up, you hoist the weight, and then boom, right? You smash the box. Okay, you obliterate the box. Now, maybe you guys would, but just think through this exercise. You did not check to see if there was a kitten in there, right? Are you guilty of killing a kitten? You cannot examine the box. They fell into a giant lava pit that's gone forever. But you should have never known. Think through this and think, if you're not guilty of killing a kitten, are you guilty of anything? Did you do anything wrong without checking and having some evidence that there was a kitten? If you have any thoughts, say them, or if you want to think for a few minutes.
I would, technically you'd have to assume not guilty, Probably, I would assume that something happened, and I definitely would have set the weight down before and checked it myself, but, yeah.
You think it's so you would say that it was a morally wrong act to do that?
I would say that it probably was a morally dubious, at best, act.
Okay. Anyone else have some thoughts? Do you have an idea? No. Oh, what do you think?
I feel like had nobody mentioned the kittens, then there would be no guilt in if they
Yes,
had accidentally done something. But
Yeah.
because they had been told,
Since there
then
was
they're
some-
now responsible for the information that they
It
had.
does change things, doesn't it?
Yeah, because they're
That's
about
a good point.
to destroy the box, the burden of proof now falls on them to make sure there's nothing inside.
And if you destroy it anyway, having no proof that you killed the kitten, what does that kind of say about the person who, even though they're aware that kittens go in the boxes, there are kittens in boxes, now he knows that. And someone else says, I'm really confident there's a kitten in there, and you're aware of this, and you just destroy it anyway.
It's almost vindictive now.
Yeah.
It almost means either A, you hate cats. Or B,
Yeah, like it's a cat. Oh, well, I'm pulling it anyway, right?
or B, they just didn't think that it was worth setting the weight down and going to the trouble, and that it was easier to, or less of a problem to them to just, it's a cat, and throw it
Yeah.
away.
Well,
Which I wouldn't do personally.
yeah, what if it was a baby carriage?
Yeah.
Does that change anything?
Mhm.
If it's a baby carriage under that, now what? And you're not checking to see if there's a baby.
That
You're
was,
just gonna smash it.
that was 100% dubitable.
That's bad, isn't it?
That's very bad.
Okay, so we know that the Christian worldview does not support abortion. We're getting into the abortion argument, okay? What I'm going to try to do is I want to refute abortion from their side. Okay? I want to take abortion on from their perspective. Because from many, I have talked to unbelievers on this issue, and what they say is, some will say they believe in a soul. And they'll say, well, it's just a zygote, or it's just a fetus, it doesn't have a soul yet, right? Have you ever heard any arguments for abortion? Are you aware of how people defend it?
Yeah.
Right? So they'll say it doesn't have a soul, and I would say, how do you know? You're doing this, right? You know it's going to have a soul eventually from their point of view, right? You know it's going to have a soul eventually, but you're that sure, right? You're that confident, you check the box. But they're just going to destroy it without knowing for a fact.
So the zygote is the box and the kitten is the soul?
From an unbeliever's perspective, when they look at, they'll say it's not a person, doesn't have a soul until this stage, or this stage, or this stage.
How do you know?
How do you know? You're doing this, right? You know kittens are in those boxes at some point. You know that for a fact, and you're willing to just destroy now. Right? So we're going to get into arguments for abortion. But first, abortion is a medical practice that terminates pregnancy, ending the deliberate death of the baby. You all know this. But I want to say this, abortion is killing an image bearer.
Oh, what's every day?
200,000 a day worldwide.
Dang. Oh, that is
It's
sad.
stunning.
It's crazy.
That comes from two separate international sources, and then the main place is the track, the Guttmacher Institute, which is very pro-abortion, and they have no desire to skew the data, and the World Health Organization, which tracks these things worldwide. So it's in a magnitude of, one says 74 million per year since the last 4 years, the other says 70. So it's around 70 million a year. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. An image bearer. Okay, we just talked about, this is why I want to talk about the image of God and then move into abortion, because these tie together perfectly. That little life is an image bearer of the King of Kings, has the stamp of the King of Kings. I want you to look at this and tell me what you think. This is probably not a chart you've ever seen before. I spent some time compiling this because I've never seen this chart before.
It's pretty wild.
Every war in planet Earth's history combined does not total the amount of babies that have been aborted. This is 1970.
Since 1970?
Since 1970, 2.7 billion. Billion with a B. All of those wars total about 100 or about 200 million. So like 170 million. You cannot get even close to the number of babies we've aborted if you look at every war through history. I'm gonna make a postulation that today we are the most bloodthirsty the human race has ever been, ever on this planet, ever. The difference is, instead of swords and dungeons and, cannonballs, they're doing it in sterile rooms with surgical gloves and white masks, but it's the same barbarism. We are barbaric.
So we're killing the innocent instead of the people that are trying to kill us.
All wars combined are less than 7% of what abortion's done since 1970. And the Crusades are about 300 years, right? That took a long time for the Crusades. And it's only about 3.5 million. I mean, it's a lot. Or 1 to 3 million. I don't want to minimize 1 million people, but man, abortion just pales in comparison. So these are the main arguments for abortion. Now, they're all in those books, and I'm not going to be able to cover them all, but I refute all of these in the books. And I refute them from their side, not even from a biblical side. Because my belief on abortion is the Bible's special revelation answers abortion. It's wrong, it's evil, right? But general revelation and moral law can crush abortion all by itself. You don't even need the Bible to defeat abortion intellectually and morally. And that's what I'm going to do. So let's go with the first one. No womb, no say. This is a very popular argument. It goes like this. Do you have a uterus? No. And shush. Your opinion means nothing, right? The premise, abortion is for those who have a womb or uterus. Men do not have wombs, therefore men have no say in the debate. This is a very popular argument. Here you go. I find it hilarious that men really think they have some sort of say with abortions. No uterus, no opinion. Thanks. Right? No uterus, no opinion. Am I right, ladies? You just find this everywhere. This is everywhere. Just saw a bunch of men speaking over conflicts regarding women's reproductive health. No uterus, no opinion. Oh, he just said that recently. Y'all, no womb, no say. Men don't get to make decisions on women's bodies. I like this next one. Also, y'all, there's no difference between men and women. Wait a minute. Men don't have a say, and there's no difference between men and women. Okay, talk about contradicting, like, in a way, it's so ridiculous, but I also feel sorry for these people. How do they divorce their intellect? So
Men can have periods, but without a uterus, you can't have periods. But without a uterus, you're not supposed to respond. Like, that doesn't.
I don't.
What they're saying anyway.
Yeah, she's angry. She's on fire for abortion. Don't you talk to me, you men. Right? Look at Professor Ed. Abortion equals health care. Men have no right to say anything about abortion.
Says something about
Well, he's talking about abortion.
You seem to have a lot to say about it, Professor Ed. Thanks, you guys are good. Right? Good old Ed has a lot to say, but right? Yeah. So notice how no uterus, no opinion only applies to pro-life men. Look at this guy down there. I identify as a woman when I talk about abortion. That was funny. Just identify as a woman, now you're allowed to talk about it. All right. This is our culture, right? This is what they do, right? So let's refute this. We don't need the Bible to refute this garbage. I mean, this is absolutely horrible. Okay, this is a fallacy. It's called courteous reply. It's like an appeal to authority. And it says that because you lack credentials or experience, your arguments are dismissed. And I'll give you some examples. No gun, no say in gun rights. How many feminists would agree with this? Right? If you don't own a business, you have no say in how businesses operate. Right? We all should have a say in that.
Fault.
No victim of domestic abuse, right? No say in laws about it. If you're not LGBTQ, you have no say in it, right? If you're not a parent, you have no say in education. If you're not an immigrant, you have no say in immigration. I mean, come on. It's just, but this is the weird logic they use. Right? We need to love God with our minds, and we need to have big brains, because this stuff is absurd, but we need to be sharp, right? And catch it, because sometimes it sneaks in. They sneak this stuff in. Then take care of it. Here's another argument that our society uses to justify abortion. It looks like this. They will grow up poor in terrible homes. Abortion will spare their lives. Heard this one? Right? I can't stand pro-lifers who are so against abortion and tell these women to just give them up for adoption, but tend to forget about the horrid foster care system we have. Take care of the kids in there and then talk to me. Right? Supporting abortion doesn't mean you have poor morals. If a woman isn't able or ready to care for a child, then she shouldn't bring it into the world. Oh, so compassionate. That child will not receive the loving environment that it needs, right? In order to grow up healthy, the foster care system is broken. It sounds so compassionate, doesn't it? It's not fair. You shouldn't bring a child into this horrible world.
You should just kill it.
Where are you to take care of it? You want to force delivery, so step up or shut up. If you don't want women to get abortions, then you better be willing to take care of all those children yourself. Easy to say you're against it when it's not your problem. This is how it should always go. If you support anti-abortion, they call us anti-abortion, then take care of thousands of kids in foster care without parents or homes. What do you guys think of this argument? This is very common. I'm giving you guys the arguments from their own mouth. I'm not paraphrasing. It was important to me to put their actual quotes up, so you can't say, well, that Arthur, he's just twisting their words. I'm not twisting the words, I'm reading the words. What do you guys think of this one? You gotta take care of them, right? Okay, well, let's crush this one. If you want to save babies, you should be willing to care for them, even take them home. Premise, you don't want to care for them or take them home. And I don't want to care for them or take them home, neither does anyone else. Conclusion, therefore just shush and let them die. That's what they're saying. Just stay quiet and let us kill them off. Because nobody wants them. We'll just kill them instead. I mean, this is the reasoning of our society. Right? Imagine this argument during the Holocaust, or slavery, or an orphanage. Here's an orphanage in Zambia. I have a friend that's a missionary in Zambia. Do any of these kids look like they want to die and they would have been better off being dead? Right? I mean, how morally twisted is it for us to say that it's better off for a child to be killed than to grow up in a broken home? That's like walking in an orphanage with an M16. Let me do some mercy here. I mean, come on. But that's what our culture is teaching about abortion. Okay, my body, my right, I'm not doing this one. Not right now. This is the most difficult one. And I thoroughly crushed it in the book, but it's several pages. And I don't have time. So I urge you, if you want to get the refutation of this from their perspective, right? It's my body. We know that God owns everyone, right? But I'm crushing this argument from their own side. I'm granting them premises, and I'm taking out them with this argument. So I strongly encourage you to read this when you get home. I don't have time. Okay, we're going to do this one though. It's not a person. These are stages of human development. Which stages in there kind of dehumanize? When you read them, you think, ooh, that's not a person. First two, right? We see those and we're like, right, a zygote and a fetus. Some people like to say these words to dehumanize. They do it on purpose. Now, I don't find any offense in it, because when I see these words, to me, it's just part of a human being. So I personally have no offense on the words zygote and fetus, right? But I understand if someone else gets annoyed with those words, so I just say use the word baby, because baby isn't in there. Babe, the word baby is not part of the medical terminology of the development of a person. It's not found anywhere. The baby simply encompasses all of them. Use the word baby if you want. But I don't mind the word zygote. I do not find it dehumanizing. It's just another stage of a person. Okay. There is an aside in debate that isn't pro-life. I am pro-life. This is a famous actress, Hollywood actress. Those calling me an infant killer or anti-choice, once again, your religious beliefs do not carry any more weight than scientific facts. Here we go. And my physical autonomy. This is heartbreaking, guys. It's a Senate bill in New York. This is now the law. What does that tell you when you read this law? This is law.
Who has been born?
A human being, a person, is defined as someone who is born and alive. If you're not born, you're not a person. That's in our laws right now. You are not a person unless you're born. This is what they want. This is what the secular progressives want. This is their end game. They want to redefine the word person. They've redefined marriage, right? They've redefined men and women. Now they're redefining what a person is. It's frightening. Premise, science tells us this thing isn't a person. If something isn't a person, it can't be murder. Therefore, you can morally terminate a non-person. It's not murder to kill a non-person. Here's a little girl, maybe a little boy, I don't know, it's a girl, all right? In the womb, she is not a person, according to the laws, our laws, right? What would make her a person? What would make her a person is if you took her and moved her about, I don't know, 12 inches, and now she's a person.
So why will they do heart surgery in the womb if it's not a person?
It doesn't, it falls apart on itself. It collapses on itself. Not a person. Person! Oh, not a person. Oh, sorry. You're not a person now. Oops. This is literally what our society is teaching us. That I'm a math guy. I like coordinate planes and math. So I'm literally, if I take this fetus, baby, and no other changes to the baby are made, nothing. You're not changing anything. No changes, except its position in three-dimensional space. And it is moved about 12 inches. It changes from an it to a person. And that's literally what's happening. Move it about 12 inches, and it's now a person. That's what the law says. Okay? But there's nothing magically happening here. There's nothing that magically happens to an unborn baby when it's born. Nothing happens to it other than it is now out of the woman. It's out of their mother. That's it. Okay? Wow, I'm a person. I'm not anything like I was 5 seconds ago. I'm sorry, guys, this isn't science. This is whimsical craziness that our society has put on us. And I'm going back to her scientific facts. When I say science tells us this thing is a person, right? Name the principle in physics supporting the arbitrary whim that says move an unborn baby 12 inches and it magically changes from an it to a person. It's ridiculous when you think about it. And I'm going to tell you something that is frightening. There was a time in our country when we defined what a person was. In 1860, do you know what a person was?
White.
White. How scary is it that the same people that hate slavery, right? The people doing this, they hate slavery, they hate racism, are creating laws that are set up to be the exact laws that we had in 1860. You just change one word. One word. And now we're back in the days of slavery. Like, wow. By the way, they're the same people that endorsed slavery, so I guess I'm not surprised by it. This was America in 1860, and here in 2024, feminism, literally, progressivism, literally wants to do the same thing with an entire class of people, at the order of 70 million of these people per year. I want you to think of the unborn as a class of people. a whole class of people that have no value. No value. They're not valued in our society. That zygote has all of the information of your entire life. That zygote, that little tiny speck, knows how tall you'll be, knows your personality. Some things are changed with nurture, but there's a lot of things about you that are right there. Your DNA is all coded. It's all right there. The sketch is already laid out from the moment of conception. The whole sketch is laid out. And you have the image of God, which is immaterial. Okay? This is what is lost in our culture. Our culture has forgotten its creator. It will soon realize there's no source of value for the very people that comprise it. Now, I'm going to blow your mind because I'm going to give you something that I think I'm 99.9% sure that what I'm about to say you've never heard before. So, this is going to be like mind-blowing. In our worldview, we take the Christian worldview is different than our worldview sometimes. We are Christians, but we take things into the Christian worldview that we need to separate out, and size is one of them. And I hope you'll be stunned at what you're about to see. The zygote is indeed very small. It's the first stage of a person. Okay, about at 3 weeks, the zygote is 0.1 centimeters. That's about the size of the head of a pin. Yet, in that person is all of the DNA for a human. Okay? And what we tend to do is we say it's so small, doesn't have value. We don't feel bad about aborting something that tiny. We'll kill it, it's just small. It's not valuable. All right? Do you agree that people would tend to think of something tiny as not being that valuable compared to us? What are you compared to God?
Yeah.
Think of this. Valuing people based on their size is a terrible failure of intelligence and morality. How big are you compared to the earth, compared to the galaxy, compared to God? If God valued people the way people valued zygotes, remember, zygote is an feminine. If God valued us the way we value them, murdering 70 million per year, I'm sorry, we would be exterminated. God wouldn't even deal with us. We are microscopic compared to God, and look at the value we have. Do you think it's correct to say the Christian worldview does not consider size as being relevant to value? Yes? Get rid of this idea in your mind that size has anything to do with value. And this is where I think you're going to be blown away. An ant looks at a human is the same as a human looking at about a 130-story skyscraper. Does everybody understand this? Okay, you can understand this kind of abstract thinking. Okay? Does everybody know what atoms are? The universe is made of atoms. Consider them the Legos of the universe. All right. I want to show you the size of the Earth compared to the Sun. It's hard to get a picture because it's so small, so I wanted a video to zoom it out. We are all on that little speck, and we're valuable, right? We're valuable, and we're on a speck. And by the way, this sun, our sun, is also a speck compared to other stars. Like just a speck. Okay. Now we think of a zygote, and we say, it's a person there. Future mother, future child, right? And we say there's no value because it's small. I'm trying to separate this out of your mind. Get the small thing out. Because, right, there's the Earth. Because a proton compared to a zygote is the same as 90% of the sun. When a proton looks at a zygote, the zygote is so big, it's the same size as the sun. When the zygote looks, it's the same comparison again. It's abstract thinking, right? The zygote is as big as the sun to a proton. That's how big a zygote is to a proton. There are trillions of atoms in a zygote, the size of a pin. There are trillions, plural, of atoms in there. And one proton looking at that zygote is like us looking at the sun. That's how big it is. So when we think of the zygote as small, it's small to us. But how many Lego bricks are in that zygote? Trillions of them. The value of a fertilized human being, because the person is small, has nothing to do with whether he's valuable or she's valuable. Future girl or boy. The value comes because God said it's valuable. And the size is irrelevant. The world does this size thing. You're small, you're insignificant, you're nothing. Christian worldview, in your Christian worldview, as you grow up, I want you to get rid of size. Divorce size from your Christian worldview. Just cut it out. Because size has nothing to do with value. Right? These zygotes are rather large. They're very big. Okay? There's a lot of things in a person. There's a smaller particle than a proton, and it's called a quark. When a quark looks at a zygote, it's looking at something much, much bigger. Okay? That tiny little head of the pin that we think is insignificant and tiny, when you get down to the smaller guys, they're like, man, this thing is huge. They're looking at something that would almost engulf Saturn. That's how big the quark looks at the zygote, and then the zygote, to get the same comparison, that's how big the zygote is to a quark. You guys all follow that comparison? Who here has ever heard this comparison before? Yeah.
It's even smaller than that, is my understanding.
So don't value a baby based on the size, is all I'm trying to impart to you, because our world does. It's only a small thing, it's no big deal, we can kill it all. That's the world. That's not the Christian worldview, right? Okay, never value a person based on size. The tiny size of the zygote compared to us is irrelevant to the question of value of work, because remember we talked about the image of God is immaterial. That little being has the image of God stamped on him, her. I don't like saying it, but it doesn't have a gender here, right? That little being has the image of God stamped. So whether the zygote is next, whatever that being is next to, nothing else has the image of God. That is a precious, priceless creature. Okay? Person. All right. So I think of abortion, the size means nothing to me. I'm simply saying those are image bearers of God. You're terminating them. That is evil. That is wicked. Abortion is devaluing an entire class of people as non-human. They're just not people. Right? And the progressives are doing this. It's one big lie when progressives say, we love people, we want to be inclusive, right? You're going to hear this from the world. We value everyone, all people. We want equality, we want equity. And while they say that, they take a whole class of people and call them worthless. It's astounding to me, the hypocrisy, but these are lost people, right? They're lost. You cannot, out of one side of your mouth, say, I believe in equality and diversity and inclusion. On the other hand, take 70 million people and toss them in the trash. All right, it's one big lie. I'm going to do one more. By the way, the life of the mother, I don't want to cover this. That's valid. That's the only case where abortion is supported by the Christian worldview. And we faced this in a church I went to in Spokane, where a woman was pregnant and her life was in danger, and she chose, through prayer with the elders, they said, if you want abortion, we support you, because she had a significant risk to her life. She chose to have the baby, and she did die. And she had a healthy baby. I don't even like talking about it because it's very sad. It was left a husband and 3 kids.
Oh my goodness, I found an
So if the mother's life is in danger, did you find an error? What did you find?
There's a floating head on one of the babies.
Yeah, right, I know, it's the AI.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get that in before I move on, because there's the one case where I think most theologians would even agree. If the mother's life is in danger, it's a very tough choice. But the Christian worldview accommodates that, okay? But abortion is not that. The abortion industry has nothing to do with the life of the mother. It has everything to do with devaluing people. That's what's at its core. Okay, law says so. Last one. Abortion is legal and protected by law, therefore abortion is reasonable and moral. Right?
Oh,
I love
there's
this.
so many things wrong with that.
Look at this little guy, isn't he cute? That's a sea turtle coming out of his egg. Guess what happens if you step on a sea turtle egg in this country? Well, I'll tell you, we got the law. You could face up to $100,000 fine and a year in prison if you decide to make omelets out of sea turtles. I don't know how good they taste, but if you decide to go to the beach and you find a sea turtle nest and you make yourself an omelet, right? You could go to prison for a year and you could pay up to $100,000. Bald eagle, same thing. These are our laws right now. Canada has similar laws. I checked Canada. Okay? Maximum fine of $250,000 or even 2 years of imprisonment for smashing bald eagle eggs. You want to take a bald eagle egg and play baseball, right? Can't. Right? The bald eagle egg is defined. Here's what an eagle means in our laws. This is our laws. Direct copy, quote. Eagle means a live bald eagle, live golden eagle, a bald eagle egg, or a golden eagle egg that is defined as an eagle. You guys see where I'm going here?
Yeah.
These are our laws.
Crazy.
We've defined an eagle as the egg. We've said the egg has the same value, back to the word value, as the eagle. A sea turtle egg has the same value as a sea turtle. Why aren't they doing this with human beings? Anyone have, what is going on with us?
Selfish.
What is wrong with humanity? It's evil. We are evil. It's horrible, right? These are our laws. This is a perfect time for the words of Jesus. You know, Jesus has something to say about this. Who could have thought, even through the Middle Ages, right, the time of John Calvin and all them, who could have thought that when Jesus said this, it really would apply in the future, right? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they are? Our laws are messed up. We put the value of a bird as the egg, but we put the value of a person, an unborn person, as worthless. You can see how Jesus stands against our culture. Isn't that nuts? Jesus reminds us we're more valuable than birds. So when our wacky laws by wacky politicians with these wild, crazy progressives try to teach us this, they try to teach this to you in these movies like Barbie, don't fall for it, okay? Don't fall for it. Progressive culture says birds have more value than a person. Jesus Christ says people have more value than birds, right? The law says so. Oh, here's some countries right now where a woman's testimony is worth half of a man. One half. It takes two women in these countries. If you're a woman and you're testifying in court, you need two. Two women equal one man. That's today, yes.
Do these countries account for men who say they're women or women who say they're men?
No, those are prison sentences. LGBTQ is thrown in prison. There's not legal there in these countries. In fact, in Saudi Arabia, it can be the death penalty. It's capital punishment for being gay. They'll execute you for being gay, so that wouldn't have any weight. Laws do not make something right. So even though the law says abortion is okay, that doesn't mean it's right. It showed you how crazy laws are, right? Many laws have been passed that are inconsistent, illogical, or even morally bankrupt. Slavery used to be legal. Was it okay because the law said so? What I'm trying to say is that when humans make laws, that doesn't mean anything. All right? It doesn't mean anything. And then it will be miserable. I do have time because this is basically one slide. If this baby lives, she will grow up in poverty under foster care. She will be miserable. And there's no, it's very similar to the other one. I don't even need to respond to this because it's horrible, right? Life of the mother is the only valid time that the Christian worldview allows. Okay. For you were formed in my inward parts, you knitted me together in my mother's womb. The Bible is very clear about this, that we are people all the way through, from the beginning to the end. We're people with the image of God. So do not fall for the lies of abortion. At 2.6 billion, this is a Holocaust daily. And the time I spent on this, tens of thousands of babies have been aborted. And it's crazy. It's heartbreaking. And so I'm going to pray. That's it. That's the end of my presentation. Dear Lord, thank you so much for those who are here today. Pray for those who aren't here. I pray you watch over everyone. And I pray you help us to take this into our worldview that you have given to us and to stay strong in the faith and not conform to the lies of the world. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, guys. Do you have any questions? Anything?
That's a lot of people that are not on Earth, like, that should be on Earth, right?
It's sad, isn't it? Yeah. I'm sorry people were here. This was my best week. That's what I was looking forward to most. This first one here.
Yeah.
This was the one of the week I was looking forward to.
That's the baby's.
There are some very morally dubious things.